Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining DataEndure's April Tech Talk. I'm Kirsten Burke, and I am joined by DataEndure's Shaheen Peruz, and we are delighted to welcome Chandra Reddy from Actifio to our Tech Talk. We've spoken in the past about how we love to highlight some of our disruptor partners, and disruptor meaning folks out there that are really thinking about solving some of our traditional solutions in a very different way that adds a lot of value to organizations out there. So we've invited Chandra to join us. As all of you know, we are in very interesting times, and Chandra and Actifio are doing some really compelling things to help organizations navigate through. So Chandra, welcome.
Oh, thanks, Christian. How are you?
I am well. Thank you. We had a conversation a little while ago, Chandra, where both DataEndure and Actifio were out there very actively speaking to organizations because our company's solutions and expertise really falls right in the middle of helping organizations who are going through different levels of challenges with either data or security. And one of the things you mentioned that I'd love to hear you talk a little bit more about, you said that, we've got organizations that are wrestling with three things right now. With all of these moves and changes of people and workflows, we've just got a situation that's ripe for ransomware, that is ripe for security issues. On top of that, we've got organizations that are looking at cash flow. They're looking at, what do they need to do? What do they need to adapt? And then lastly, and importantly, they're trying to figure out, we got to continue to do operations. We got to continue to grow. We got to continue to make sure we deliver value to our customers. And you had some really interesting thoughts around that and around what Actifio is doing for these organizations. We'd love to hear that.
Sure, yeah, Carson. I mean, if you think about this COVID period where people have really difficulty in getting into the data centers and doing their day-to-day jobs, right? There are a couple of things happening. There's a little bit of a supply chain issue where if organizations wants to augment the capacity in data centers, it's not that easy. It's slowing down. That might change as the economy relaxes, as the governments open up the economy. But access to the data center is still an issue. We're talking to a customer of ours who just could not change tapes in a tape library. They could not ship tapes offsite because of the fact that nobody could get into the data center in London. That's one example. Another example is another very, very conservative organization in New York. They would never have entertained the idea of people working from home, even their IT staff. But this period in New York has changed everything. So they were forced to have almost, I would say, 500 people in their IT organization work from home. And all this work from home force, all of a sudden, they're using their personal devices. Yeah, they're watching whatever they're watching. They're playing games in there, visiting various websites, and then they VPN into their corporate network during the office hours. All these endpoints have all of a sudden increased the surface area of attack, points of attack for ransomware. And you see an increased activity of ransomware and malware in the last couple of months. So that's like a very big challenge for a lot of enterprises.
Chandra, can you talk a little bit about, so just for the audience sake, let me take a moment to say, Kirsten mentioned Actifio is one of our partners, specifically a disruptor partner. And what that means for us is in each category, we have a technology partner that everybody knows, everybody accepts, and that's a leading technology in the space. But we believe that the disruptors in that same category are fundamentally changing the way that category works in a positive way for the future of IT. And so one of the reasons we partner with Actifio is this notion of copy data management, which was the foundation and core of what you guys started as, and then that extended into we can leverage this technology to do much more than simply DevOps and dev test environments. Can you talk a little bit about how that has now translated to this notion of being able to protect against ransomware and recover against ransomware now that the attack surface has increased?
Yeah.
I'll give one example of a customer who a couple of years ago, before they were on our SOC, they got impacted, and we went in to do the incident response. And this customer had a well-known backup platform that was virtualized on top of their Hyper-V environment. Their whole environment was virtualized on Hyper-V, and ransomware, as you know, basically encrypts the operating system. The problem with Hyper-V is Hyper-V runs on top of the Windows operating system. So when they encrypted their entire environment, they encrypted the backups, they encrypted the file systems, they encrypted the VMs, they encrypted everything.
Yeah.
So they were stuck without the ability to recover, and ended up having to pay $250,000 in ransom in order to get the keys, and then a significant amount of money to build up a infrastructure that they could decrypt too, because you can't decrypt in place. You need the capacity, you need the compute, you need all that. So it ended up causing a significant expense in their environment. And fundamentally, it's because their backup was on the system and it was encrypted.
Yeah.
If that had been different, can you talk about scenarios where you've seen how you guys help and how you would have helped in that kind of scenario?
Sure.
By the way, they are an Actifio customer now.
Yeah. Fine. So I'll address two things. One is copy data management and how it can help with not only just backups and DR, but also dev and test and the security patch testing. So copy data management is, in very simple ways, is about managing copies of data, production application data, with a single pane of glass for multiple use cases. It starts with a backup. Copy data management always starts with a backup. You got to backup or protect your mission critical applications running anywhere: private cloud, public cloud, VMs, physical servers, databases, file systems, NAS filers, all of the above. You got to have a backup copy. Now that you have a backup copy, where we bring in the innovation is, how can you reuse? The data reuse is a very important concept. You don't want backups that go to die and hope you never, you reuse those backups. That's a waste of storage, waste of time and energy. So what we want to do is, this is like an insurance where it pays for itself. So you reuse those backups to not only for recoveries, operational restores, and disaster recovery, but also for test and dev. If you walk into any large enterprise who has a development team, dev, QA, they always want copies of production data. Why? Because they want to test their latest software against real copies of production data rather than some dummy data, so that they can catch the defects very early. By the time you get to UAT, you have already found a lot of defects. The software is not seeing the production data for the first time in a UAT. So reusing the backups to provision those clones makes it very easy for test and dev. Now you can extend this concept for ransomware too. Here is how. So first thing is that my suggestion to our customers is that don't just rely on a backup product to detect ransomware. You got to use native security tools. There are vendors out there who specialize. Go to the Gartner's Magic Quadrant and figure out who are the endpoint protection vendors. You have to use those endpoint protection tools in place to detect malware, ransomware. Now, in spite of those tools, for either because of processes, somebody did not log into jump server before they access the production or whatever, because of breaking the processes, somehow they get infected. That's where Actifio comes in and helps you recover from those ransomware infections. Here is how. Just like we all are going through a social distancing, methodology in this COVID era. Similarly, there is a concept of air gap in your backups. So this idea here is that you do not want any third-party piece of software to get to your backups. And it's like an onion. The more layers of defense you put, the better it is. So the first level of defense is Actifio software, or any other software. Pick a software which is Linux-based. In general, there is more ransomware incidents on Windows as compared to Linux. So first level of defense is your operating system. Second level of defense is who can get access to the backup software. So you got to have role-based access control. So Shaheen is an administrator. Yes, he should get access. Chandra is not an administrator. He's only a backup operator or a restore operator. Then he should be able to do only restores. Chandra should not be allowed to delete backups or modify the backup policies. But it goes beyond that as well. Another layer of defense that you could add is you want to say that, okay, what if there is a rogue admin there is an admin who was normal but turns rogue and starts deleting the backup. You want to protect against that scenario. In that scenario, you want a retention lock mechanism in the backup software so that nobody can start deleting the backups or changing the retention policies. And then you need to have a warm capability, which is write once, read many capability at a storage layer so that nobody can go down to the storage and start deleting and infecting the backups. So now that you have these onion layers of defense mechanism so that at least the backups don't get corrupted, the next step is about how quickly can you recover from ransomware infections. So the first point is that today is what, Thursday. When did the infection happen? A lot of people don't know that. Was it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Sunday, Saturday? So instead of doing things sequentially and trying to find out when the infection happened, the idea is that instant mount technology is very, very important in a backup product. The idea is that you instantly mount your backup image from Wednesday night backup, today's Thursday. So Wednesday night backup, Tuesday, Monday, Sunday, Saturday, and so on, parallelly to a fenced environment, and then bring up those machines like practically in less than 5 minutes, and then use your endpoint security tools to figure out which point in times were impacted and what is the most recent pristine point in time. So the faster you can get to a consistent point in time, the better. Once you find that, then it's a matter of recovering thousands of machines in an automated manner from that point in time.
So I like to, I often, you guys actually have coined the term, and I use it all the time. You're sales engineers. The Guitar Hero screen of Actifio. And for those who have not seen the interface, when you look at the protections or the snapshots of a particular image, it's a screen that shows different types of backups, and it looks like Guitar Hero. There's the strings going, and there's spots on it, and so what's interesting is in our security operations service, we are doing specifically the thing that you're suggesting customers do, which is we are monitoring the network, their endpoints, their servers, the traffic on the network, and we collect all the logs. And one of the things we're able to do for customers, which is the example I gave earlier, they are now on our SOC as a service, and they're using Actifio to protect their environment. And they have moved off of Hyper-V, which I highly recommend. And they basically have the ability, if this were to ever happen again, we can go back into the forensics rather than and very specifically tell them this was the point in time when the ransomware hit your network and it impacted this server. And then it's very easy to go to the Guitar Hero screen and pick that date and restore that image and be up and running in a matter of minutes, as opposed to, in this particular customer's case, it took them almost a year to recover from the impact of that ransomware attack. Yeah. And you mentioned a good point. The role-based backup, the RBAC, is pretty critical. We have another customer that is now a SOC customer that also got hit with ransomware. Sadly, some of our SOC customers have come to us after they were impacted. And that particular customer was using an online backup solution. So they felt that their backup was air-gapped and in the cloud. In that particular case, the adversary compromised the admin system and used the admin's credentials to log into the backup software and deleted all of their backups before kicking off the encryption in their environment. And what you mentioned about the worm or write one, read many approach to being able to protect the data so that it can't be deleted is a critical factor to be able to say at points in time, we're going to lock down this backup. And not every backup solution has that capability. So that's another factor which makes this a unique play in this world of ransomware. A lot of backup technologies are scrambling to try to add that capability, but by nature of the way you guys designed the platform from the ground up, I like to say that the world evolved to catch up to Actifio's approach. And
the important aspect is the backups have to be immutable. So when you are mounting a snapshotted backup image for ransomware detection or recoveries, chances are it can again get infected. But the beautiful thing about a good architecture is that that backup is a snapshot, which means that even if that gets infected, the original backup image is never going to get impacted. So you always mount a snapshot of a backup instantly, bring it up, and either that is the point in time of your recovery or you move on to the next previous point in time version. So
excellent. So Chandra, We're starting to see a little bit of breakup on your side. Can you still hear me okay?
Yes, I can.
Okay, great. There you are. The Tell us a little bit about what you're hearing in the field in terms of some of the challenges that our customers are facing as a part of. We started this conversation around the notion of the world has changed and we're in this modern state of all of a sudden everybody's being pushed to be remote. There's been everything from our VPN infrastructure can't support. We were planning on 25% of our users being able to work remotely. Now 100% of our users are working remotely. To access to the data centers, what are some of the ways that you have been able to help customers that are running into challenges as a company from an IT and technology perspective? Can you talk a little bit about some scenarios where you run into that with your customers in this current state of affairs,
Yeah.
and how you've addressed those?
Sure thing. Yeah. So what we are doing is a lot of CIOs right now, because of the fact that their top line is going down in this climate, they are looking into cost reduction. And obviously, infrastructure cost reduction is something that they are looking into. So where I help along with our team members here is identifying and understanding how we can reduce costs for them. As an example, the lowest hanging fruit is like reduce your data center footprint or infrastructure, reduce your dependency on somebody having to walk into a data center and manage infrastructure. Why not focus on your applications? So obviously, migrating applications from data center to a public cloud or anywhere else, right, is going to take time. So the lowest hanging fruit is typically, what about your backups? Why do you need those expensive dedupe appliances? Or do you really need to put it on tapes? Question those, and if you can get rid of those and just point and shoot to a public cloud object storage, which is like scalable, which is low cost. So that's one analysis that we show, that here are the pros and cons of this framework of leveraging cloud storage, for backups and long-term data retention, and showing them the cost reduction. The second aspect is about on-demand disaster recovery. There is significant amount of cost savings to be achieved by just, you have a DR data center with compute and storage and everything sitting idle, right? Why not reuse that for other production capacity, or just, if your end of life cycle for that infrastructure, get rid of that, point and shoot your backups to a public cloud, and then get on demand disaster recovery. Get the compute on demand. Everything is API driven, all right, and you can get your backup and disaster recovery via API driven in public cloud. That's a low hanging fruit, in my opinion, where they can reduce their data center infrastructure, reduce their costs, and get better SLAs, rapid recoveries, push of a button. It's all about reducing operational burden.
You mentioned the very conservative company at the top of the conversation, that they historically we need to see the people in the seats in order to think that they're doing their work. Have you seen that people's openness to cloud has started to shift in this time frame too? Not just the openness to remote work, but now is an opportunity for us to take advantage of this cloud thing that we've been thinking about, but we haven't. And I see why there's value now that we're all having to work remote.
Absolutely. I think I, in my role of product marketing, have to talk to a lot of customers. I have not seen a single opportunity wherein cloud is not part of the conversation. Either they already are using stuff in the cloud, or there is a cloud project, or it's coming soon. So it is happening, and the lowest hanging fruit is point your backups and do your on-demand disaster recovery in cloud.
Do you feel that that movement towards more cloud has accelerated at all because of the situation we're in right now, or is it just a sign of the times and it's evolving to where it's evolving?
I think it's too early to say it has already accelerated, but there is a very strong trend towards starting to leverage cloud, and I think we might see the acceleration in Q2 and Q3.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Here's
Sure thing. Yeah. So May 5th, noon Eastern time, we have a webinar. And the topic is around ransomware recoveries. So our chief security officer at Actifio, Dr. John Myers, he has a PhD in immunology, and and he's going to talk about ransomware. A great gentleman, lots and lots of knowledge both on the medical side as well as the technology side. So he's going to share his perspective on the parallels between the immune system, how it fights those external agents, and how our software can fight off those ransomware and malware infections. It's going to be a very interesting webinar. It's not only about ransomware, but we'll also talk about actually Brian Achilles, our global solution architecture head. He's the field chief technology officer. He's also going to actually talk about Actifio and actually do a live demonstration of recovering multi-terabyte Windows systems in a matter of minutes in that webinar. It's going to be very fun.
It's very exciting.
Yeah.
Chandra, thank you so much for joining us today. Did you want to leave any final thoughts?
Oh, thank you for inviting. As a final thought, I would say, we have tough times, both on the, personal side as well as from a business standpoint. It's going to be a little bit of a tough atmosphere, but I think it also gives us an opportunity to think in a different way, innovate, and accelerate. So that's how I would like to leave this discussion.
That's actually a perfect segue. We when this started and we had to shelter in place, Kirsten and I talked about, okay, do we want to try to figure out how to make this live stream virtual? Because historically, we've done it in a format where we're sitting in a room on a sofa, casual, conversational, and the world has changed to a point where that conversation doesn't even come up anymore. Jumping on a video meeting is very normal right now, and that's it's so to your point. Open your thinking and think about different ways to do something and accomplish what you need to do and stay productive. So I want to thank our audience for joining us today. Thank you, Chandra, for joining us. It was a great conversation. And Kirsten.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
See you all. Have a nice day.